Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. Our new release this week is The Cowboy's Secret Baby. It is the second book in Jessie Gussman's Sweetwater Ranch Western Cowboy Romance series, and I'll have a little bit more about that along with a video preview for you, but I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First, the release date for this preview is February the 7th, but I'm recording it the day prior on Monday, February the 6th, which just so happens to be the birthday of everybody's favorite sweet romance author, Jessie Gussman. I am sure you want to join with me to wish Jessie a wonderful, fantastic happy birthday. And in fact, you can pass your own wishes along directly if you're on Facebook by joining her reader chat group right here. It's a fun and supportive group of people, and you will not regret it if you do. So, Jessie, happy birthday, and many, many more. All right, the second thing. Since it is February the 7th, we're a week out from Valentine's Day, and perhaps that's why, it's not a coincidence, that the devotion I was reading this morning just happened to involve a Bible verse that you most often hear at weddings. In fact, those are some of my favorite set of Bible verses is 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. If you've been to a church wedding ever, I promise 90% of the time you will hear these verses. You know it by heart, probably. Love is patient, love is kind, so forth and so on. And verse 7, which is the verse that this devotion centered around, I'm used to hearing the King James Version or, some similar translation. Love beareth all things, believeth all things. Love hopeth all things, endureth all things. And that is certainly a beautiful, majestic verse in and of itself. But I don't think I had ever heard the NLT Bible, the New Living Translation version of that verse, which reads, "Love never gives up. Love never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance." I mean, wow. That to me just really struck me today for whatever reason. But the verse in this devotion was a focus to kind of be an example of something that Jessie writes in her books all the time, that love is an action verb. We are not meant to just passively love, to accept the wishes and whims of everybody else around us. Of course, as an action verb, it doesn't give you license to dominate any relationship that you're in either. But the point of this devotion was that regardless of the type of relationship, whether it's a marriage or romantic relationship, a relationship with a family member, or even your relationship with friends, the principle is always the same. Love seeks to strengthen and benefit others. I hope I try to live that way most days, and I'm sure you probably feel that way too. And as a great segue, the story in The Cowboy's Secret Baby is very much like that, an action verb of love. It's the story, by the way, of Louise Olson. We met Louise in the first book in this series. She's the sister to Palmer Olson. And Louise is a single mom. She's a waitress at the local diner, having kind of a tough time making ends meet. And one Sunday, she is home, staying home from church because her daughter is under the weather. And like a lot of times happens in, well, small churches or churches I've been around, if you're not there, that's when you're going to get volunteered for jobs. And Louise is volunteered to be the co-committee chair for the church's Sweetwater Fall Festival. Now, Louise doesn't mind. That's kind of her thing. And normally, under most circumstances, she would entirely enjoy it. But she finds out that she's been given a co-chair. At church that Sunday, very possibly, arguably, Sweetwater's most famous resident, Ty Hansen, is there, and he volunteers to help on the committee. Ty is Sweetwater's most famous resident, or arguably so, because he is an all-star professional hockey player. He happens to be back in Sweetwater because he's secretly rehabbing an injury. His agent wants him spirited away and hidden away so it doesn't affect his marketability. So he's back home for a while. And this normally wouldn't be a problem, except Ty doesn't know that he is actually the father of Louise's daughter. It happened during an almost accidental fling that they had right out of high school before he left for college. Can they learn to strengthen and benefit each other and find love, find happiness, and become a family? You know you're going to have to come back this Friday to find out. But for now, here's a sample of The Cowboy's Secret Baby. I hope you enjoy it, and you'll come back this Friday for the full release here on Say with Jay. He moved until he had both hands holding her face. He half lay over her and tried not to notice how soft and good she felt beneath him, but focused on her eyes. Look at me. Her eyes fluttered open. I will call you. I promise. A struggle went on in her eyes. He could almost see her jutting her chin out. I believe you, she whispered, and he knew it cost her. Her mind would want to protect her heart, keep it from being broken by an ignorant man again, but her heart wanted to trust again, and she allowed it to win the fight. He hadn't deserved her trust the first time. He definitely didn't deserve it again, even as her face was still ravaged from the crying she'd just done over him. He hesitated before lowering his head, kissing her wet cheek as tenderly as he could. He had to be careful. Kissing Louise had never been an activity that was easy to stop. Once he kissed her cheek, he moved to her swollen eyes, trying to soothe her with his lips, not knowing any other way. He kissed one closed eye, then the other. Soft kisses. Her other wet cheek. Wet from tears she'd cried because of him. He fluttered his way down her angled jaw, feeling the soft skin, knowing there was a strong woman with backbone and purpose under it. One who would support him despite the opposition of the whole town, if necessary. A woman strong enough to forgive his stupidity and give him another chance. If she weren't, he wouldn't be here on her bed now. His lips were on her neck, tasting the smooth skin there, when she moved a little, and her hand came out, sliding along his cheek with a sandpaper sound, loud next to his ear. His chest spasmed, and he squeezed his eyes closed against the urgent need to kiss her. Not yet. Instead, he trailed his lips up her neck and jaw, grabbing her earlobe and giving it a light tug before moving across her cheekbone. Her breathing had shifted with his, both more shallow. Their hearts raced together. His lips moved to the tip of her nose, resting softly on it. Their eyes met and held. The air around them seemed to shimmer. His hands tingled, and he pushed them into her hair. Her head tilted just a little, and his lips hung suspended in the air before they landed, whisper soft, on hers. Their eyes held, although his lids lowered halfway of their own accord, and it felt like they were shooting heated darts. Her eyes flared as well, and her hand pulled on the back of his neck, urging him closer. He might have been able to win the battle with himself, but he couldn't fight her, too. With a groan that felt like it had been torn from his soul, he angled his head and obeyed her unspoken command to be closer, meshing his lips with hers and kissing her the way he wanted to, the way he dreamed about, the way he remembered. Only the memories were a dim imitation to having the real Louise under him again, his lips on hers, his hands touching the actual woman, warm and soft. Everything he remembered, and so much more. It took 3 seconds before the door bursting open and hitting the wall registered. Palmer's angry shouting penetrated his haze-filled mind. His eyes met Louise's startled ones before he was grabbed by both shoulders and yanked from her bed. He stumbled to a knee, reaching to see her around the bodies of her brothers. "Didn't you learn anything from last time?" Palmer shouted, his face red, his hands clenched. Ty didn't bother to answer. The fact that he was in her room, kissing her, was answer enough. Even if that were the first kiss in 9 years, it didn't matter. If her brothers hadn't shown up, he might not have stopped. Even now, his lips were still tingling, and all he wanted was to see her, touch her, and make sure she was okay. Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.